blessed to be part, record. Thank you. Okay. I feel so blessed to be part of this network of friends that came together tonight to share, to grow, and to learn. Thank you all for being here. I want to welcome our friends from Chabad of Bingham Farms. Hi, everyone. From Jewish Women's Circle of Ann Arbor. Hello. Friendship Circle Moms and Volunteers. The Shul's Women's Circle and Torah class. Woo! And our friends from Chabad of Toledo and Chabad of Royal Oak. And welcome to Friends of Friends. We are now all officially family. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. And welcome, Michal. Though it's only a short time since we met, I feel like we've been best friends forever. And all of you, I think you will feel the same as this evening progresses. So Michal's bio is, let's just say, impressive. She's head of company culture, diversity and inclusion at TikTok Europe. She was in charge of international leadership and team development at Facebook, as well as other impressive positions. Thank you, dear friends. She trained hundreds of tech leaders and holds 3 degrees from prestigious universities. Thank you. Michal lives with her husband and 4 children in London, UK. So Michal, why then, in your book, do you describe yourself as having been riddled with fear and anxiety? And why do you take on this passion of sharing your experiences with the world through your book, and tonight, among many such meetings, with our wonderful Michigan community after midnight of your time?
Recording in progress.
Oh, it's so good to be here, seriously. And just thank you for making it real, because yes, it's just like half an hour after midnight. And actually my husband's standing outside here to make sure that the tech is working, because we had to move rooms, because of course my daughter woke up, my 4-year-old woke up exactly as we were about to start. So just keeping things very real. So now you're not used to this room, because this is his study. But why am I staying up? Because of you. So I just want to know, everyone to know that the women that organized this event, you are special. And I also bonded with you from the very beginning. And I'm doing this because I care about the very many people and women on the call today, and also because I hope I have a message to share. And thank you for kind of, reading my CV or my LinkedIn profile. But I think many of us know, for anyone that's been around for a little bit, that we never know what's going on in a person's life. We never know what's going on in their heart and in their family. And yes, even though all those things were true, and I was supposed to enjoy all those beautiful things in life, I wasn't able to enjoy them because I was suffering for most of my life serious internal pain, anxiety and depression. And for many, many years, I tried to help myself in all the ways that I knew were possible. But only at the age of 38, 8 years ago, I discovered a wisdom that I'd love to share with you today if I have the opportunity.
Thank you, Michal. Hi, I'm Basi. I want to thank you for sharing the secret that you uncovered for best health practices for our mental health, right? So you shared in your book that therapy wasn't helping you, and the way you ultimately found your healing was through the teachings of Jewish wisdom. So it's kind of funny because you grew up in Israel, and you would think, like, were you not exposed to Jewish teachings, Jewish wisdom, Hasidic teachings? Like, were you never exposed to that?
Yeah, so I'm going to just open my heart, right? Because we have an hour and there's so much to cover. So I just want to share a little bit about my upbringing. So you're right, I was raised in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in North Tel Aviv, and I was raised my parents, but also my grandparents, who were Holocaust survivors, and I was raised like many second and third generation, with a post Holocaust trauma and with a lot of fear. And I was raised in an environment of survival. And my grandmother, Hannah, who managed to jump off the train on the way to Auschwitz because her instincts were very strong and she was lucky enough to be able to jump off the train. She survived the war, the horrors. She survived and created a new family, but she had this urge to tell me a lot about the Holocaust and to prepare me for what she called the next Holocaust. It wasn't never a question for her if it will happen again. It was just a question of when, and she really needed to prepare me. As you can imagine, as a 2-3-year-old granddaughter sitting on my grandmother's lap, she was on a wheelchair, hearing those stories, how deeply it affected me. It also didn't help that I was raised in Israel in a difficult time of terror, and my father was for many years the head forensic pathologist of Israel, and I saw things. I saw death and the difficult sides of life. So for many years, once I realized that I've not well inside, and by the way, externally everything was fine. I was persevering at school and trying to please everyone and be perfect for my parents and for my grandparents to make it worth all of their suffering and all of their challenge. And I wanted just to please everyone. And I think many of us grow up in environments when we feel like we need to please and to perfect, and that affects our mental health many times. And it was actually only after 3 years of serving in the military as an officer, just after I left the army, that I had, I would call, a breakdown. And I started going to therapy for many, many years. And yes, Jewish wisdom was never an option to help my mental health. I only thought that medication and talking therapy were the options. I had no idea that there was a Jewish wisdom. For me, Judaism was, if I'm totally honest, what people wear, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So more the rules and regulations. I didn't know that there is a spiritual healing Jewish wisdom for most of my life.
So what was it like about the Hasidic teachings at Tanya? What was it that actually like kind of got you and started your healing?
Oh, how much time do you have? I'll start. I want to make it real because I also know that there's like, at least 80, but I'm counting also rooms with many people inside. So like we have a very good number of people here, and I want to do you kind of justice with sharing my story to hopefully connect with you. So I was at a stage where I had multiple degrees. I actually studied psychoanalytical work and psychodynamic in the institution where Sigmund Freud did a lot of his work. So I tried to learn. I always try to learn and educate myself and look for solutions and ideas. And it was actually at the age of 38, as I mentioned, when I hit a wall. I was already a mother to 3 children. I had a lot of things to be happy for, but inside I wasn't happy at all. And I had very, very bad thoughts that by the way, I was ashamed of my thoughts because I knew I had so much to be happy for, but I just couldn't find the meaning in life. I know that sounds quite bombastic, but that's how I felt. And it wasn't a big dramatic, firecracker moment. It was step by step discovery. But I guess one of the first points of discovery was about the book of the Tanya and about the idea that we're supposed to live with joy, but also that struggle is a vehicle for growth. And that tension between those two, I found fascinating. I was trying to perfect myself my whole life. And I thought that the fact that I felt broken inside meant that I was damaged. And yes, I saw bad things, and I had bad experiences in my life, but I thought that like I would never be able to recover. And when I realized through reading of the Tanya, that I have a soul, that was a discovery. My father, as I mentioned, he is, thank God, a very known forensic pathologist, and he conducted autopsy on about 40,000 bodies. And I remember asking my father, Abba, which is father in Hebrew, is it possible that in the body there's a smaller body that never goes away, that we actually don't bury, that continues? And my father said, no, we're only flesh and blood, and we end when it ends. And it was quite but I knew I knew that there was something beyond. I just didn't have the vocabulary, and I also didn't have someone to talk about with this at that stage. So when I discovered that there is a soul, and that everyone on this call, we have a soul, and it's a godly soul, and that soul never gets damaged, and it's as pure as it was when I was born, and that I can reconnect or actually discover my soul, and that there's a reason that I'm here. It's not all by chance. Often I thought about, I'm stuck in this family. Why was I born to this family? I can't do these, it's too much. And I also blamed many parts of my life, when I realized that it's not by chance. And I'm here for a reason. And I have an opportunity to kind of restart again and reconnect to my soul. I felt a lot of energy, and I felt really inspired. And when I realized that we were never supposed to be perfect in Judaism, that was a huge discovery, because I thought that we were. And it was very liberating to hear that the first man and woman, they made huge mistakes too. And here we are facilitating life after. So those were the small steps that I started discovering. But then I discovered very deep elements in Judaism, ideas and the Jewish wisdom that help us navigate life. And I've been taking those learnings and bringing them home as a mother now to 4 children, to my job. I've been working at Facebook for many years, and I work for TikTok, and I coach through the ideas of the Jewish wisdom. I bring it to my marriage. And of course, I always not get it right. Sorry, that's grammatically wrong, but you know what I mean. But I've learned really new tools to help navigate life.
Wow, that's amazing. I am kind of curious how, as a young girl, you just knew that there was another body inside. Okay. Wow. Okay. So one thing that you say at the end of each chapter, which is awesome. If you change, I can't copy your accent. If you change nothing, nothing will change. So is the idea at the end? So what you say over there, can you take us through a few examples of either how you actually used it practically for yourself or for your clients?
Absolutely. And yes, every chapter in the book ends with a coaching section, because part of my professional, I guess, one of my professional hats is being a coach in the companies that I mentioned. And I really believe in taking things to big inspirational ideas and then bringing them down to the everyday. And in Hebrew, we have the word tachlis, which is like, unless you bring it to life, it just stays up here, but really testing something makes a change. And if you change nothing, nothing will change is actually, I think I borrowed that from Albert Einstein, which is about, taking action. So yes, some of the ideas that I would love to share with you are the ones that I immediately take once I understand them to my everyday life, and also to work. So should I share maybe a couple of those just to kind of bring it to life? So there's many ideas in Chassidut. And by the way, I just want to make sure that we don't use terms that like people are not familiar with, and please do ask questions in the chat. There's nothing I love more than, and it's not about what I love, but I believe in people, maybe if you can ask questions or share your comments, so we can feel like we're all here together. I'm actually also looking at the videos and oh my gosh, it's so good to see the friendship circle people. Oh my gosh, I can see you all. Then the Shul's Women's Circle. Oh, I wasn't on all of the open windows. Sorry, I'm going to get excited for a second here. And everyone else, I'm looking if I know anyone, and I have some family names that I'm familiar with. but I'm not going to do a shout out. So yes, if you do feel comfortable sharing in the chat or asking questions, that would be beautiful. So I'll start with a very familiar song for anyone who is maybe Israeli or speaks Hebrew or has visited shul here or there, and it's about the world being a very narrow bridge. And it's really beautiful in Hebrew. Oh, it's great to see you on. I'll say it in English. So it's Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar meod in Hebrew. And in English, the whole world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge, and a very narrow bridge. And the main thing is to have no fear at all. And actually, this song in Hebrew, we used to sing in the army. I was serving with women, training women, young recruits, and when we were like doing interesting activities and training, and it was becoming quite hard, we would used to sing the song to give ourselves inspiration. And this cultural song, I believe, the way I read it, that was written almost 300 years ago, it talks about the experience of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation, and the truth of the world being a very narrow bridge. And what it means to me is that throughout life, we face bridges, we face opportunities, we face challenges, and those bridges are in front of us always. Sometimes we choose not to see them, sometimes we choose to see them. And I think the question is, how can we find the faith, the leap of faith? How do we know when to cross the bridge, and how can we take that first step? And what I learned about the Jewish wisdom is that it's a wisdom about taking action and about crossing bridges, not taking unnecessary risk, but always moving forward and knowing what's the bridge that you have ahead of you. Sometimes the bridge is to date someone, not knowing if that date will bring out any relationship. Sometimes the bridge is to start some kind of education journey or a course, not knowing if this is exactly what I want, but having a feeling that it is. Sometimes this bridge is actually making change in life, but yes, it's quite scary to make change. And what I find really inspiring in this acknowledgement that life is a narrow bridge is knowing that it might feel wobbly and it might feel uncomfortable. And of course, don't take unnecessary risk. But if you know that this bridge is your bridge now, and if you instinctively and rationally feel that where you belong is on the other side of the bridge, so how can you find that leap of faith to take that step forward? And I find that encouraging and inspiring. And even though I know that no one knows how it's going to exactly feel on the bridge, it's often really important to take that step. And one of the things that I'm seeing recently through my coaching and through my work is that often people, we want guarantees, we want reassurance, we want to know that we're going to exactly get what we want and how we want it, and it just doesn't work that way. So this song and this idea in the Jewish wisdom really inspires and encourages people to take action. So you don't have to share this, of course, on the chat, but I invite people on the call, if you did want to think for yourself, what's the bridge that you're facing now in your life? It doesn't have to be something massive. It doesn't have to be a tall, scary bridge. It could be just a good-sized bridge that you can see in front of you now as things are starting to be improved after COVID, an opportunity or a decision or something that you've been thinking of, and now you can see it potentially in front of you. What's that bridge that you're facing? And what needs to happen, or what do you need to do in order to take that first step? So I find that idea kind of quite motivating. So that's one idea.
No, go ahead, Michal.
I think that's one idea. The other idea that I want to share is actually around pain. So, you know, I'm with you now. I have like my makeup done, I have my lip locks on, and as we said, we never know. I'm going to talk about, I can see there's a question about social media. I'll have a look at the questions in a minute. So, sometimes what people see from us from the outside is not exactly, or very often, what we feel inside. And one of the beautiful ideas in Chassidut and in Jewish wisdom is that there's nothing more complete than a broken heart. And anyone that their heart got broken, either by someone doing something to you and hurting you, or sometimes we actually hurt ourselves, or sometimes just the way that life evolved, it breaks us. The idea that we're actually, even though it's difficult and challenging, and maybe we wish it wasn't this way, but it is, the idea that there is nothing more complete than a broken heart is a very important concept to keep inside, for ourselves, as parents, as people being in relationships. And in the book, I share about moments when my heart got broken, and how I felt like I would never be able to recover, which I think is a feeling that many of us to relate to. Sometimes our heart can break even at work, when someone really hurts us, when we trusted someone and they betrayed us, and we think we're never going to be able to heal, or we're never going to be able to get out of this pain. And the idea that actually growth can only occur, can only happen when, and this is metaphorically speaking, when the heart breaks and there's a space between the parts of the heart, metaphorically speaking, to grow, to evolve, to develop, to understand yourself better, and also to believe that something good will eventually come out of it. And often it's very hard to believe. I find that idea encouraging. And I actually also share that with my children. I have 2 teenagers and 2 younger children. And children's hearts also break. And when I tell them that the breaking doesn't feel comfortable, but it happens to help them become complete, it gives them koach, it gives them strength. So that is a very beautiful idea in Chassidut, in my opinion.
Wow, Michal, I had a question, but now I have a million questions. But I won't ask you a million questions. So much of what you say resonates with me, especially being a child of a survivor and having parents who always wanted to protect us. And I'm talking about my siblings and I, and always wanted us to be perfect. And yes, so I can relate to so much of what you said, and the book really spoke to my heart. My question is, because I really was so touched by your outer beauty and your inner beauty. And obviously, to have both, it takes time. It's called, I think the world calls it self-care. I'm just wondering, you're a very busy person, and you're a mother, and you're doing all these things. How did you actually make that time for self-care for your body? That was, I can see that, because the world really, there's a lot of that. But self-care for your neshama, for your soul. I mean, I love our community and I love my friends, but one of the things and myself is, how do you take time for your neshama? How did you do that? How did you make that happen?
Well, I'll tell you why this is a very meaningful question to me. Actually, you mentioned the outside and the inside. This is not something I wrote about in the book, but because I suffered for many years from probably some obsessions, anyone that experienced depression or anxiety or sadness, or that it's one of those things that often you feel the pain of it, and then you feel the shame of the pain of it. And often when we live a privileged life with good things around us, it's almost making us feel even worse. And you mentioned, your upbringing. I was saying to myself, who am I to even being miserable inside? They lost their lives, right? It's a classic kind of guilt and shame, and those very heavy feelings. Actually, at some stage of my life, when I got very, very anxious, and when I speak about anxiety, I just want to make clear what I talk about. This was the kind of anxiety that every single second you feel that something horrible is going to happen, and you prepare for that something horrible. So every time my children went to school, my assumption was that I'm not going to see them, God forbid, if they're not going to come back home. Every time they asked me to do something, I wanted to say no. Every time a friend wanted to come over and she would ask, what time can I come? I never wanted to say the time because I didn't want to be involved in her, in something horrible happening. So you can think about being a mother and trying to work and trying to get this system working when you actually can't make decisions every single second. So that's the kind of anxiety that I was struggling with. And at some point, I really wanted to get control over my fear, control over something bad happening. I didn't know that there was a bigger master in this world, and I can control as much as I can. So it was all on me. And at some point, I became obsessed with my external look. So in order to try and get control, I did a lot of face treatments, a lot of injections. And I, at some point, unfortunately, without intention, I kind of caused my face to freeze. And it was from the extensive anti-aging treatment. And that was a very not comfortable time in my life when I realized that this is serious. This is serious, and it might be a little bit out of control. And this is when I started to take a bit more kind of support to help me go through this phase, when I realized something needs to change. And by the way, I have nothing against beauty treatments and anti-aging. I still use them. But I think it's always the question of like, what controls what, and for the person to be controlling their own decisions. And then I learned that I need to try to find what really helps me heal myself inside. And as you touched on this already, when I realized that there is a neshama, that there is a soul, and the soul wants to grow. And the soul, often those feelings of anxiety and depression, if it's in a way that you feel we can kind of deal with it ourselves, but we don't know how, sometimes it's because the soul is sending us signals that we're not living exactly the life that our soul needs us to live, that we're not investing in ourselves, as you said, in the safe self-care, in the internal growth. So I started finding some balance, and I started learning actually about the soul, about soul and body, about actually sadness, about overcoming challenge, through the ideas of the Jewish wisdom. And yes, it takes time to learn this. And I'm sure that there's options for people on this call to learn this if they wanted, through the different Chabad houses and the women organizing this. But I also want to say that sometimes we have to make sure that we get medical treatment. And I'm very supportive of, trying different things. So, trying therapy, which I still very much believe it, and medication when needed, and sometimes combining that with teaching and finding that combination, if it's right for the individual to slowly kind of connect to themselves and to hopefully heal. But I don't think that studying Chassidut should immediately come, instead of if you support on medication or therapy. I believe that there's a way to combine all of that together if someone's really going through a difficult phase or time.
Wow.
But I'm not sure I answered your question. Can I have another go? You said, how do I combine it both?
Right.
At one of the people that really inspired me in my old job was Sheryl Sandberg, and who was the COO of Facebook. And when there's opportunities to meet with Sheryl, women in the workplace, but not only, one of the ideas that she really promotes, and it's also kind of a Facebook mantra internally, is the idea of ruthlessly prioritizing. And I think for anyone that wants to look after themselves, including, women and mothers, but anyone, we have to learn how to ruthlessly prioritize. And that means that sometimes we won't do things, we'll please less. And this is very, very personal and very individual, and very specific to every single person on this call. But how can each of us ruthlessly prioritize to be spending our time and our energy in things that give us meaning? And yes, it's fun to go for a massage and a facial, but what about like a massage and a facial for the soul? And I think that's something that I learned later on, to be very clear about what do I need to help myself find meaning. And when I say meaning, I don't mean this meaning or purpose of being a CEO, being on stage, things that you can put on post. I mean the everyday meaning, and the fact that meaning changes depending on where we are in life. I don't believe that there's I don't believe there's like one single purpose that I arrived to this world to be or to do. I think that sometimes my purpose is to be for someone else, and sometimes my purpose is to help myself do something meaningful for myself, and sometimes my purpose is to give life, and sometimes my purpose is to do community work. But being clear about looking for that purpose and caring for what is purposeful for you, I think that often we don't invest enough in that, and that's something that potentially I want to work on.
Well, thank you, Michal. Lots
Wow. Thank you. That's so beautiful. Ruthlessly prioritizing, important terms to remember, and it's hard, it's tough. It's not easy to always, decide what's the right call for now and what's the right thing for now. Michal, I was wondering, you write in your book, and you just shared with us now, that you made changes as when you already had children, you had 3 children already, and you were already married. So how did this work? How did you keep the harmony in the home, together with all the changes that we made? We all get inspired at different times from different things. And how did you incorporate all those changes in your house and still keep the harmony?
Oh, I love the word harmony. I'm not sure that there's always harmony in my house, to be honest. There's good intent. So this is one of the reasons I love Chabad. I love Chabad for many reasons. But one of the reasons I love Chabad is, listen, let's be honest. When I learned these new ideas, I was, as you said, already later in life, but early in life. And I came back home from the first couple of Tanya classes, and my husband saw that something was going on for me. I think he saw the sparkle in my eye. And initially he was like, great, my wife is happy, When I started coming with some ideas that I wanted to bring to our home, for example, what saves me in my life, which is Shabbat, that was an interesting moment in our marriage life and also in our family life, because we grew up in homes when we didn't keep Shabbat. All of our marriage until then, we didn't keep Shabbat. Shabbat was the day of running errands and getting my hair done or nails or whatever. And suddenly, and washing, and of course, football and all of that. I don't want you to think that I get my hair done and do nails all day long. And suddenly I came with this idea of like, Yair, I'm really inspired by the idea of having a day, a detox day, a day to not do actually. And it was quite a shock. So I'll tell you in a second what we did. But the reason, going back to why I love the ideas and the concepts and the deep essence of Chabad is that the most important thing is actually peace in the home. In Hebrew is shalom bayit. And even the word shalom, which is peace, and bayit and home combined together is just a beautiful harmony, going back to Musia. So what you said. So I always knew that whatever I want to bring to my marriage, the new ideas that I want to bring, what I need to keep my eyes and heart and soul focus on is to keep the peace in the home, and to keep the peace with my husband and I. And we had moments of tension, I'm not going to lie. So I am blessed with a deep commitment to communication in the house. And I believe that communication is critical, even if it feels uncomfortable. I grew up in a house with a lot of silence, and I can't do silence in my marriage. So I think the combination of communication, of being curious as a couple for new ideas, and then having that navigation system towards peace in the home helped us overcome moments of tension that we had. And I'm sure we'll have more moments of tension because life is full of tension.
Yeah, I hear. Beautiful. And God should bless you, that you should always be able to find like the right ingredients to put this peace and this harmony. And and you should, I have many questions to ask, and I'm trying to think like, what's the next one that I would like to discuss now. And you write in your book about the concept of neshama, of the soul that you discovered, and how this concept just had an impact in many, many different areas of your life. And I really loved the fact that at the end of the book, you also mentioned about parenting, that, that you discussed like parenting with the soul. Can you please share with us a little bit more with like, what do you mean by parenting in the soul, and how do you use this concept of neshama, of the soul, as a mother?
Of course. And I just want to say that I know sometimes for people, when they hear soul and spiritual, they're like, no, I'm not that type. I don't meditate. So I don't meditate either. Maybe I should, and I'd love to. But all of these ideas that we're talking about, I was exposed to them as I was in my corporate work, in my like all the drama of life, right? I didn't go up to a mountain and I was sitting there for like 6 weeks trying to discover, which I think will be beautiful. I'd love to do at some point in life, but these discoveries were made in the drama of the everyday. But you also need to give that leap of faith to allow yourself, right? Because like it's like you need to allow yourself that opportunity to see it and believe in it and step by step. But you write about parenting. You asked about parenting, sorry. So I actually studied quite a bit around parenting through my education before I discovered Tanya and Chassidut and these ideas that we're talking about. And when I studied psychotherapy, psychoanalytical work, I was pregnant with my first daughter, and my firstborn, and I studied there that a child, a baby, is born neutral, and they're like a clean slate, a tabula rasa, and anything that the child grows to be is really an outcome of their totally an outcome, of their outbringing. So
it's stressful.
So think about an anxious person, anyway, anxious. Everything needs to be perfect, the outside, the inside. Make it worth for the 6 million. Sorry that I'm speaking this way, but this is the mindset. And then I'm pregnant. I'm 30, I think. And I think that anything and everything that I do to this unborn child is like, I can ruin her completely because she's born neutral. And then any mistake I will do is completely damaging. So one idea that I learned, which is a familiar concept of the good enough mother, and I suggest to anyone that did not read these ideas by Dr. Winnicott to kind of make yourself familiar with a good enough mother, because it's not just about mother, it's about the idea of good enough, being good, talking about this world of trying to be perfect. But I was very anxious about becoming a mother and making those mistakes. But then when I started learning Chassidut, I realized that there's beautiful parental advice, and probably one of the first parental advice given, I didn't research this, given by King Solomon himself, thousands of years ago. And the idea that's coming through his advice, but also the idea of raising children by their souls, is that a child is born with a story, right? With a soul that slowly evolves. But they're also already born with some journey that they're going to go on. And the role of the parent, and I know it's easy to say and hard to execute on, because I'm also a parent myself. The role of the parent is to acknowledge that your child was not born neutral, nor were they born a clean slate. They were actually born with already a potential of a soul, a story, and our jobs as parents is actually help our children go on their specific, individual, unique journeys. And sometimes the journeys that our children take are not exactly the journeys that we'd like them to take. Or sometimes they take the journey that we don't agree with. Or sometimes it's really hard to go with our children on their journey. But the encouragement to think that way is for me refreshing, and it helps me as a mother. Again, I get it many times wrong, but I sometimes get it right when I try to go with my child's soul and less with my own ego and projections. So that is actually one of my biggest development areas personally. And it's an ongoing job, and I hear that it will never end. So yeah, that's maybe as a savta, maybe as a grandmother it will, but yes, I know that many parents, that parenting is not easy. And I'm not an expert in parenting, but I always want to hear some advice on parenting, because I think it's such a big job to be a parent in this time for young children and adults.
Thank you.
Can I just quickly ask a question about what you just spoke about, and that is about your fourth child. You
Yes.
speak a lot about it in your book, and what inspired you with that, and yeah.
Yeah, so my fourth child, she arrived when I was a bit advanced, I guess, in I wasn't expecting to be able to have my fourth child, let's just say it that way. And she came at a beautiful time when I felt like I wanted to correct this parental experience that I had with my first three children. And my fourth child also came at a time when I went, I guess, for full circle with my parents. So I just want you to know that I really love the idea of respecting our parents. And when I wrote the book, I spoke a lot with my parents about things that they feel comfortable that I share, and they gave me the green light for everything. But I've had hard times with my parents, as I'm sure many people here had, I don't say many, but maybe other people had on their call, on the call. And I'm very grateful that as a family, and when I say family, I mean, I'm always going to be my parents' child. I'm glad that I was able to share with my parents my learnings. I was able to go full circle with them. And actually, when my fourth daughter was born, it was at a time when my mother and I kind of were in room together, and it was a lovely correction. I love the idea in Yadut, in Judaism, of tikkun, of correction, and how there's so many ways to correct around us. If it's a relationship, if it's saying sorry, if it's reaching out to someone, if it's correcting myself and trying to be a better wife and a better mother. I love that. Yes, and I'm also very conscious that I'm talking a lot, and I still see the beautiful Zooms and the videos. And I don't know, Iti, if you want us to give people opportunity to ask questions, or if you have any questions at this stage. Don't be shy.
We have some curiosity here with the social media, as was
Okay.
asked earlier. Not every
Okay.
day do we get to speak to TikTok and Facebook.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna look at the questions. So asking me as a social media expert, use these principles and those in the book to encourage each other and our daughters to nurture our neshamas, our souls, by harnessing the power of social media for good. So yes, social media, like anything, has a potential for good. And by the way, I discovered Jewish wisdom on social media. When I was in my low place, I started Googling words: depression, anxiety, fear, joy, and happiness. And that's how I actually found Chassidut and Jewish wisdom. So I would say that my role, I'll speak for myself, not as an expert in anything, just for my own voice. My role, I have 2 girls and 2 boys. My role as a parent is to help my children feel comfortable in their own skin, feel comfortable in their own identity. And by the way, know who they are and where they came from. Give them that identity, give them that family environment, give them also family values. I think that one of the things that I love about this journey of learning about the Jewish wisdom is that these are beautiful universal concepts about what it means to be living together as a family or a community, about giving to others. We only started volunteering when I discovered Jewish wisdom. We never used to really give tzedakah or volunteer before. It wasn't in the DNA of myself. So why am I saying all of that? I think the first thing that we could do as parents is help our children feel comfortable with who they are, be very clear about what matters to us as family units, what's the culture of your home. And that is already a really great start as they go out to the world, including social media, to think about how they bring themselves to that world and how to navigate. I am also a very big believer in boundaries. So yes, I believe in open communication, and I actually invite my children to give me feedback. And we have this feedback culture at home, but at the same time, I'm very clear about setting boundaries and saying no, which is a beautiful word to use at home and not often enough used, I think, with some of us that just want to make sure that our children are always happy. I think they can be also happy with really clear boundaries. I can see that there's a question about how did you actually connect with Hasidic Judaism. So my first connection with Hasidic Judaism was through a Tanya class. And when I started reading the Tanya, and I am blessed to know Hebrew, so I heard Tanya in its Hebrew, I couldn't stop for a few days. It just went deep inside, kind of grabbed me, I guess, by the soul. And then slowly, I learned what the Tanya is, which is, guidance to help go over life challenges. I really believe in learning together, if you can. I really believe in the power of friendship through learning. And that's what I've been doing in the last 8 years. Another question is, how can I sort of reparent, for lack of a better way to say it, my children's souls when my children are adults? Oh, I wish I had my
A
mother.
tough one.
So, you know, we didn't talk about this today, but I'll speak for myself here. One of my areas of awareness as a mother and as a person is, how do I deal with my ego? And I think this ego that we have, I guess we were designed to deal with it, but it's often not easy. Call it ego, call it bad inclination, call it, you know, those voices inside of us that don't always help us make the right decisions. So I think everyone loves care, and everyone loves to be loved, and everyone loves if their parent reaches out to them and they say, I actually want to, you know, and do it with a smile. I actually say sorry to my children for the things that I got wrong with them. So I don't know if I'm answering this question. I feel that there's always a potential to reconnect to people. If we're happy to try to find, like, what's that thing that they need from us.
It's beautiful, Michal. Thank you so much. I see that on the WhatsApp, your name is Live with the Moment, or Be in the Moment, or something like this, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So in a way, like, this goes very well with this question, as you're saying, you know, just like see what you can do today as a mother, and every day a new opportunity, right?
Yes.
I got some questions being asked in private about, I'm just trying to group them. You're writing a whole chapter about leadership.
Yeah.
And can you discuss about what would it mean, like, to be a leader by the soul, if I can call it this way?
Yeah. Oh, good question. I actually when I was writing the book, one of the things that my book agent was kind of encouraging me is to write a book like mainly on business and bringing ideas of Chassidut to career, to the workplace, to leadership, which is something I really hope to do. And I'm sure, like many other people here, I'm deeply inspired by the writing of Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zichro Livracha, who writes beautifully about leadership and leading kind of through the ideas of the Jewish wisdom. But I would say a few things. First of all, leading through neshama. Oh, such beautiful. So the neshama arrives here to do something meaningful. The neshama arrives here. When I say the neshama, is like you, right? We arrive here to do something meaningful. We arrive here to do for ourselves, but to do for others. So I think the question as a leader is, what are you going to do for other people? And obviously one of our biggest leader was Moses. When he was a shepherd, he was looking after everyone and no one would be left behind. So how can you lead through the neshama, never leaving anyone behind? By the way, I also see myself as the leader of my family. So leading doesn't always mean at a job or at an office or whatever we sometimes think. Leading means like leading in your community. How do you lead through your neshama with the community? How do you look in people's eyes, which is the window to the soul? How do you understand what people need from you today? I think that's leading through neshama. How do you learn to lead like a mensch, which is, I love the word mensch. I love the idea of mensch. Yes. I'm trying to raise my children as mensches. I don't care that much about academic studies. I mean, I care, but I do, you know, it's second in my list. I think that encouraging children to be mensches, to be children and young people that are caring about others, that they see the bigger picture, is a huge task. And of course, adding academic elements is also, important. But yeah, leading through the neshama is leading with care, seeing everyone, knowing how to make space for everyone, knowing how to be humble, and it's not always easy. I think it's also about not falling in love with your own ideas, which is something that I suffer from.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all the hard work.
Thank you. Thank you. If anyone have a question and would like to ask it, you can just send a reaction, like you can wave or send a thumbs up, and then we'll know that to unmute you. Let me see here if we have any reactions, any questions.
Thank you for
anyone-
the private messages that people are sending me. I just want to say thank you.
Yes.
You have a question here.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Malka. And I understand you started your journey a few years ago. And how would you identify yourself today? Secular, religious? Where do you find yourself standing at this point of your journey?
Oh, I can't tell you how relevant your question is. So I went to I don't go out much, which is a bit sad, but never mind. So today I went out to this kosher restaurant that we have in the area that I live, and for some reason there were a couple of people in the tables around me that kind of recognized me because they read the book and they were, hi, you're Michal and la la la. And then I saw someone that I know from many, many years ago, and he came to me and he was about to hug me. And I could see the tables around kind of seeing, is she going to hug him or no? And there was like this awkward moment. And I'm wearing jeans, by the way. So I can see like these people and everyone around, and we shouldn't judge people from the out, but like you can see that they're in different, they're key. They different levels of Masorti, Haredi, right? So it was like this awkward situation of people were trying to like bucket me, I guess. And I think that's such a normal thing to do. And I did give him a hug, and I hope I didn't disappoint anyone by that. But what I'm trying to say is that I don't fit any, I guess, definition. I'll make it really simple. Like I keep Shabbat, I keep Kashrut, I keep other deep elements of a Jewish life, a woman Jewish life ideas. And I wear jeans and I don't cover my hair. And I'm figuring things out as I go. So I guess one of the nice things about living outside of, I think, Israel, and sorry to sound like maybe, I don't want to sound criticizing of that actually, I feel like outside of Israel, you can be so many things. And it's not like yes or no, or one bucket or the other. I find that quite liberating. I would say that that's who I am. I don't know if that answers the question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Michal, I think we're all listening and we're amazed and inspired. And I look forward to listening to the book again. And I'm going to listen to it because I love when you read it. The Audible is Michal's personal voice, which gives it more personality.
And Israeli accent.
Right. My question is, so we're going to leave here and we're going to get off the Zoom and we're going to try to take a step to our bridge, right? To cross our bridge. But let's say like we get stuck somewhere on the way and we want to, maybe we need like a little push from you, a little advice, maybe. I know you can't take on all of our journeys, but are you open to any of us contacting you as a follow-up? If we have any questions on something that you said today?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm best to be contacted on LinkedIn and Messenger or Instagram. So please do message me. But I want to say I'm finding it hard to let go of you. I promise I will in a minute. That those moments of being like stuck or feeling like it's a fall, the fall is only for the rise after. And the stuck, we're never stuck. We're just like we're almost there. And I really truly believe in that. But you do need a bit of faith to believe in that. And the ideas of going down to go up, of the importance of community. I wish I was with you there in the room at the moment. Like we have to remember that we have friends around us, that we have community around us. And I just want to say the energy that I had for this call today was also because of the chat in our organizers group, how we gave each other strength, how we gave each other idea. Like each of us has so many influence and strength to give each other for crossing the bridge. Like we should give that to each other. And if anyone's stuck on the bridge, take a minute, and maybe it's not your bridge, but maybe it is your bridge. You know, find someone around you that can help you take that step further. And if I'm that someone, then message me.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Michal, thank you so much. And thank you. You're just a great reminder that Judaism is not just an all or nothing. Really, every mitzvah is valued, and we're all on this journey, and every step that we're taking, every progress is valued by God. So thank you so much for reminding us this, and thank you so much for all that you shared with us.
And thank you. I just want to say thank you again for the private messages. Thank you for your message. I'm gonna say goodbye, but I'm carrying with the messages. Have a good evening. Enjoy the journey, and I love you from London. Thank you,
Michal.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. I see here amazing. One is not stuck. One is almost there. Oh, this is beautiful. Thank you, Pam, for sharing. I see here Michal. Thank you for sharing your beautiful story. May you continue your wonderful adventure. Yeshar koach. Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much. I hope I read right. I'm from Paris. I see here some more thank you from Nancy. Thank you, Michal. Really enjoyed hearing about your beautiful journey. Be well. And thank you, everyone. This was so special. Thank you from Carol.
And thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, and we should be able to take in all the inspiration.